Hello, and welcome to the Quintessential Comics Book Club. I'm Alice Quinn, host of Quintessential Comics and this book club. Today we have a lot of really awesome guests, and I'm so excited for this conversation. Also, because there's 4 of us in this chat, just beware this one might be longer than some of our other ones. I'd like to introduce our guests. We have Allison O'Toole. You can wave. We got Megan Carter.
Hey!
Awesome. And we got Diana McCallum. Oh, yeah.
That's me.
Awesome. First off, thanks so much for joining us today. I can't wait to hear your opinions. So let's jump right into it. We're going to start with our graphic novel, Tune. First thing I wanted to ask you guys is, Tune is also produced from a webcomic. Did you read it online, or did you read a physical copy? Let's start with Allison.
I had to read it online because I went to the library to pick it up and realized that I was at the wrong library. And they did not have a copy, and so I read it online. True story.
That's cool. That's cool. We'll go over to Diana.
I read a physical copy. I went to the library, I write one, and they had lost it, even though they said it was in. And I went to a second library, and I got it.
Megan, did you read it online? Did you read a physical copy?
I read it online, so that's how I got my stuff, because I don't believe in supporting creators or libraries. I don't leave my home. This is the story.
We're not going to assume that, but since you said it, I guess that's what we're gonna have to do now.
that's how I advertise myself.
So I had some really particular feelings about this one, but I'm gonna let you guys start.
I'll start. Did anyone else feel like the main character was kind of a dickhole?
So unlikable, right?
Right?
Incredibly.
I don't know if that was on purpose, like we're supposed to realize this guy is kind of a jerk, or if I'm supposed to empathize with this character, because I think I was supposed to empathize with him, and I don't.
I didn't care for him at all.
The way that the story with Yumi was framed seemed like you're supposed to like him, but yeah, he was a dickhole, to borrow your term.
He wasn't great, and I was actually disappointed Yumi ended up liking him, because I was like, no, Yumi, you're better than this. Yumi seemed great, and I was like, damn it, she actually does like him? I don't see it. Come on, Yumi.
Well, even Yumi kind of she stinks of Manic Pixie Dream Girl.
Yes.
Where and so she's cute haircut and alternative clothes and super spunky, and she's the perfect girl who's gonna save my life.
I'm actually really glad you guys brought that up, because I wasn't going to. Because it's a webcomic, they have, for the print edition, it's just a bunch of these panels on a page, and the page background is this sort of starry galaxy thing. And at first, I was like, oh, this is because this is the sort of grand opening, and the panels are laid out like this for a reason. And then the entire book is like that, and I was like, why? That's a lot of ink for negative space, and that's a really poor use of negative space. And that bothered me more than the characters did, because...
Oh, wow, really?
That didn't really bother me. So
the other thing that really got me is I wasn't bothered by the panel layout with the story background, like you said, Alice, as much as this format of comics, but also a lot of prose, a lot of writing, and having to read a lot of paragraphs of writing to read along with these panels. And it's I like prose, I like books, and I like comics. But I don't get them together. I'm not big on that kind of format. And so I was, you have to go through these paragraphs just to get to this one panel, and I got frustrated and impatient where I was skipping over full paragraphs just to get to the actual comic panel.
Oh, the book doesn't have any paragraphs.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Really? Allison, back me up here on the webcomic?
Well, it was very, I wouldn't say paragraphs, but it was very wordy for a comic. Like, it was, I found that too. And I found it strange, like, my thing, reading it online, I guess, like, you're not thinking about ink and that kind of thing, but I can see how reading it weekly, you might be like, oh, this week it's one panel.
Yeah,
Cool.
that's not good for
That
like.
to me would be more frustrating than the amount of text. Like, it was wordy. I don't know if I would go as far to say that it was too wordy, I guess, but I also like purple prose sometimes. So that it wasn't something especially stuck out to me, but I liked the starry background because it was about space, eventually.
I also didn't find, I liked the starry background too. I didn't find it had a lot of prose because I read the book, but it took a really long time. The end of book 1, he's not even at the zoo yet.
Yeah.
Way too long.
So, like, did anyone else feel, so, like, yeah, so it seems like collectively we hated the main character. Did anyone else get the feel like the author might be a jerk?
In the spirit of being honest and constructive criticism, I have a feeling that the author doesn't realize that the main character is portrayed as a jerk because he's put himself as the main character. And this is his story because he's an illustrator and he probably went to art school. He probably had a girl he had a crush on. He was too nervous to say anything. You know, this is probably one of those things that's loosely based around his life. But yeah, just to go back to what or Diana said about being really short and weird. Because yeah, at the end of the first book, he doesn't even get there, and it's like, why would you start us off? Like, I don't mind if they start us off near the end, as long as they like finish it. This one didn't even have an ending. It was like,
No,
why?
they finished.
Well, it's
They
a
finished.
cliffhanger,
He's still
isn't
out
it?
of the zoo.
It's a cliffhanger, though, right?
Not really. I mean, we already saw the beginning. I'm more interested in what the zoo's about than actually getting there.
Okay, so I'm glad you said that because, so Alice and me, we read the webcomic, and so the webcomic goes further on from book 1, and so now that I've read further from that, you know, book 1, I was like, this character is kind of a jerk. I don't know if I can do this, but book 2, it becomes less about the main character and more about his situation and his circumstances, and I get more into it, and I actually relate a bit more to him.
That sounds way more interesting.
Yeah, I would definitely suggest, like, if you weren't too big on book 1, try book 2 and see if you come back around.
Okay.
I really liked the other alien, who I guess was barely in book 1, but those aliens were great. I found one thing I noticed that doesn't really go away is a lot of the, I want to say it's an attempt at satire, but it's very kind of blunt. A lot of the like industry commentary, and then like you know, there's that kind of stuff. I was like, could we maybe dial it back a little bit and have something a little bit more creative to say? Because it just seemed very like,
yeah. Okay. So the reason I was critical of the author was not even because of the main character. I didn't link those two together. It was like specifically there were a couple red flags. So one was that scene where all the art majors are at that bar and it has that table of the fashion majors and they're all super vapid and like super rude and mean and they're all just like the popular girls and it's like, okay, that's a rude generalization to make about fashion majors who work just as hard as illustrators. So that was red flag number 1.
But those characters weren't rude. The boys just looked at them as unattainable. We never actually heard them say anything.
Yeah, we did. We heard the girls say something where they...
Oh,
yeah,
maybe in your version they did.
Maybe.
They did. They did in the book.
Yeah, they look at the boys and they're like, oh, nerf herders, oh, turn away, oh, super, and they're just like really obnoxious.
Right. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, and so that was the first one, and the second one was
and
Allison was saying the editor at the comic publisher, where it just comes off with this air like this editor doesn't know what he's talking about. The artist clearly knows better, and I was like, I don't know, like if I met this main character, because there are a lot of artists who do think that, or like these editors don't know what they're talking about. They have never taken art in their lives, and it's like I've met guys like that, and they are the worst. And if the author is like also confirming this to be true, I was like, I don't know if I'd be friends with this person even.
Yeah, another thing I wanted to point out, there's a lot of this like perpetuating stereotypes about art majors, about the industry, and then he has his Korean mom and this whole like Agu thing, which I was like so not interested in.
Well, see, like
I actually thought the mom and dad were kind of cool. Not cool, but like I found them the most entertaining part.
I was okay with it only because the writer is also Korean. And I was like, okay.
I agree completely. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I really liked how his dad is just behind a newspaper.
Yeah. Let's talk about the art style because it's so endearing and it's so adorable. I love this art.
The way he like goes over the top with his characters, and like when he finds out Yumi loves him, and there's like hearts everywhere, and he's like ah, like I like that, but a big part of what hindered this art for me was these crazy big pages with negative space.
Okay.
It really bothered me because I don't want to be all academic about comics, but
do it. Let's get snobby. Let's get snooty.
Panel layout's really important, and when you have a page that's the background is like a galaxy, and you have panels in a very specific way, that's saying something about the content. So in the first chapter, I really understood it, and I really liked it, because I was like, yes, this is in space, this is in a different world. But then when it flashes back to the past, which is where most of the book takes place, that background doesn't drop. And then it's like, no, there isn't any meaning in this background. He didn't make any consistent panel sizes, and so this is how they're choosing to make the book. And it really bothered me because it's like, oh, well, if you only have that much space, why didn't you make the book smaller? Or if you wanted to make your webcomic into a book eventually, why didn't you choose like consistent panels, or at least have a layout for your pages in mind and be like, all right, I'll do 3 or 4 smaller panels and then a long panel.
Well, is it possible though that like they set out at the beginning without the plan to put it in print? Because I'm thinking about like a lot of webcomics will use that. There's the concept of the infinite canvas and all that, where you'll have the page designed to be read online and to be read in this sort of like 3 times a week for this one content.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
So it's possible. Like in this case, I'd give them the benefit of the doubt and think that maybe they intended it originally just to publish online, and that maybe it doesn't translate as well. Like I'm thinking about like Emily Carroll's book last year. She put his face all red into the book too, and it's not as effective on the page, but she created it to be read online. So in this case, I'd kind of give them the benefit of the doubt, thinking that this is something that a format that they thought would work when they were updating 3 times a week. Because especially if you're spacing panels out like that, like it's less, I guess, grueling for the artist rather than having to do like 3 full comic book pages a week.
Right.
I don't know.
And even like I know there are pages like you were saying that's like just a single panel, and on an update schedule where it's like every other day there's a new page and you just get that one panel. It is probably specifically designed. It's like this panel is like a big deal. This is a big impact. So that's why this whole page gets this one panel. And on the web it's okay to do it like that. In a print comic you would just do a splash page. And so I am with Allison on this one, where like I get that he probably specifically designed this for the web and said, yeah, there we go. Diana's got the right idea.
Thanks, Diana.
And Alice is doing the same. Look at these.
Yeah. So like I brought this page on screen. Yeah, and it just seems like I understand that they're making a flow with the panels, but it's got less of an impact when it's every page.
Now that you've said it, it's really bothering me.
You ruined it, Alice.
As I was reading it, I didn't mind the starry background. I didn't mind the panel layouts at all. I think I even liked the stars, so I'm like, yeah, Earth is in space.
No, the art I genuinely enjoy.
But now that I think about how much ink that wasted, it does bother me. Ink is expensive.
Yeah.
Well, that's on the publisher. Like, they can worry about that. First Second can pay out the nose for printing.
Well, I just found it distracting because, like, especially when I read a comic for a book club, all of these things I take into consideration.
Absolutely, right? That's totally fair.
But I mean, overall, it wasn't bad. I enjoyed it. I felt it was a little short, and I know there's a second volume out. Um, so maybe I don't know.
Yeah, I
didn't find it short.
genuinely.
It's too long till it gets to the point.
I kind of liked that it was this.
Pages about him watching TV at home.
Well, I kind of liked this idea because the one thing I really liked was that it's this big sci-fi adventure, but in this first book, like in the beginning, we get this hint like, oh, it's in space, it's sci-fi, and then actually the first book is just this slice of life comic, and then at the end it's like, nope, bam, space. And so I get the idea that this first book is establishing his life and kind of what he is leaving behind. And then the second book is like where it gets into it.
Did anyone else find the tone kind of off the whole time? Because like at first it feels like it's for like teenagers, but then there'll be like sex and swear like and stuff, and I could never get a quite feel for the tone that they were going for.
Well, First Second, I think usually advertises their books for like probably 15 to 24-year-olds. And the style, especially like you mentioned, seems like it'd be for kids almost. It's really cartoony. But yeah, you're right. The tone is very adult.
Yeah, when they get into like the sex stuff, and then there's like urination, but grosser.
Yeah.
Well, it also seems like the character and everything in that like life period is also kind of aimed at like 20-somethings, for sure, right?
The tone was weird, but it didn't bother me. Like you didn't, until you brought it up, I didn't notice. I liked how it had that slice of life. I liked how it introduced us to the character before the change. I would have really liked to have seen more of what happens after he gets into this other dimension in the first book. I just felt like you could have done that in less pages, or if you put more panels on each of the page, you could have gotten to this book.
Just keep bringing it back. Just keep hammering it home.
Yeah, no, but that's fair in terms of like when they decided to publish it, when they decided the number of pages that it would have, right? Like I'm definitely with you there. Like they could have seen it, or maybe they could have found a way to compress it or to repackage it in a different way that would read better.
I would have liked to see that, where like you see a digital comic arranged in a certain way, and then once it's in print, it's actually designed in a completely different way, specifically for print. I would like to see that done. I'm sure people have done it, but I guess Through the Woods, is that Emily Carroll's book?
Yeah,
that would be an example where originally it was just a long vertical comic, and then suddenly it's arranged for print specifically.
Yeah, because she would have had to figure that out. And you'll also see webcomics, I'm thinking about like the volumes of Dr. McNinja that I have.
Right.
Where they'll put like the alt text at the bottom and stuff like that, right? Like you find a way to transfer between mediums, or media, I guess, in a way that makes it more accessible in this like new form. So maybe they didn't excel at that. Maybe First Second could have been a bit more involved in reformatting the whole adventure.
Right.
But then again, like that's so much work. So who's to say?
Well, I will say I didn't know it was a webcomic when I was reading it. Now that I know, though, I think like it can probably be hard if you're doing 3 panels a week to figure out like how long it is and what the arc's like. Like I bet if you're doing 3 panels a week, you can't tell that it's dragging because every week it doesn't feel like it is. But like you're not doing it as a whole, like you're writing a book in one big chunk. So I can actually see how it happened now that I know it's a webcomic first. Sometimes it felt college age, but then like when it opened up, I actually thought he was like a middle schooler because of the artwork and because he was wearing a tie like a kid in a uniform school.
Yeah, I totally
did too.
It actually took me a while to realize he was in university, and even when he right out said it, I'm like, is this like a child prodigy who got to university early?
Yeah.
Because like it didn't feel like college at first. It was a weird mix. The tone never quite landed for me throughout the entire thing. I'm actually interested in book 2 now that you say they actually get to the zoo and stuff.
Yeah, no, I would definitely, in general, like I would recommend this book, but I would also recommend like read it whole through. Don't just like. Because like when I read the first 10 chapters, I was like, I don't know if I can do this. But as I progressed, I was like, yeah, okay, now I see what's happening, and I'm interested to like keep going.
The other aliens make it worth it. They're really
They
cute.
are, they do. And so does Yumi, actually. Yumi makes it really
I do
worth it.
like Yumi. I like. Oh,
Yeah.
does she have a suit?
I like her more in the second book.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I even liked Yumi in the first one. I thought she was fun.
What
I
was
like her
your
style.
reaction when Butlord McGee reads her diary?
Oh, Butlord McGee.
Yeah, I blanked on his name.
Rage. That's my
Right?
response.
I was like, wow, you're just a complete jerk.
I don't know, personally, it's like, it's one of those things, it's like, can you? It's like, if you have a chocolate bar sitting on your desk, and you're like, oh, I'll eat that later, I'll eat it for dessert after I'm finished. Can you wait? Can you really? I have no self-control, so
Okay,
I might
but
have,
is that
I might have
someone
peaked as
else's
well.
chocolate bar? Is that
Yeah.
someone else's chocolate bar that they've saved for like months?
That, like, it was really important to them, and
Yeah.
in a way,
Bought from
no
like
one else
their
could have
grandmother
it.
in Holland.
A chocolate bar is not a good example because, like, a chocolate bar will be gone. The journal's
Yeah.
still there. A chocolate bar is
No.
not.
But like this also
Very
doesn't
high.
exist in a vacuum. This just like compounds his also other jerk qualities, where it's like, oh, this is the one that digs the grave.
Yeah, I don't know.
To be honest, I might read a journal. I'm honest enough to myself to be like, I'd skim it for my name. I wouldn't read every line like he did, but I'd be like, they talk about me?
Yeah.
I do that about myself.
I think I'm really good at feeling guilty, is what I am.
Yeah, me too. I would put it away. 'Cause
Well,
I feel
here's
bad.
what happened. I wouldn't be able to resist the temptation of opening it, but I would like skim through it a little bit, and then I'd feel really bad, and then I would put it down. If
Well,
we're
I
being
think-
100% honest.
I think this show has proven who has a conscience and who doesn't, Allison.
Don't trust me with your journals, guys.
Yeah, apparently. This is
Or
a
just don't
public
write about
service
me and I won't
announcement.
read it.
Yeah.
If my name's not in there, I won't even look.
Yeah.
I'm a really bad example for this because, like, I put everything I think about on the internet.
It's like, Yumi, why do you have a journal? Just get a Twitter. What are you even doing?
Yeah. Have you heard of LiveJournal?
Who has physical media anymore?
Yeah. That's just Manic Pixie Dream Girl. She has a diary in her sketchbook because she's so spunky.
Alright, so I want to wrap up our discussion on Toon Vanishing Point. I think I would have really enjoyed this a lot better had it been packaged with the second volume, because I feel like this isn't a complete story. I feel like 10 chapters is an introduction, but there's definitely more to the story, and I would have enjoyed it if it was a thicker, but also more substantial and had more of this story. But overall, it wasn't awful. I just had a lot of criticisms about it.
Is this like the first quintessential book club where you've had a contrary opinion to the book you've presented?
No, I don't know if you saw the one I did for the first one with Snow, but
No.
Snow, like, there was just a lot of hype, and they made a short film about it, and they made a little video game, and it was good, but it wasn't, like, amazing, and I was like, meh.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the first one I felt really open and free to, like, be critical, because you guys just provide that aura for me, so thank you.
We just bring that out of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Diane, do you need to leave?
Actually, yeah, my dog's here now. I do want to say Ghost Racers is way more fun than this book was. You guys have fun, though. I gotta go. Sorry.
Bye, Diane.
Allison, what did you think about this one?
It was okay. To be honest, for me, just kind of unspectacular. It's just not a protagonist I'm engaged in. It's not a plot line I'm engaged in. But I can also admit that it's not all the fault of the comic. It's just not the kind of story. Anything that's this based on this sort of one character pining after another one just isn't really for me, because it forms so much of the basis.
I thought Alice was asking you about Ghost Racers, and you were like, it just didn't do it for me. I was like, I think Alice.
And you were going to murder me?
Yeah, I was like, I don't think it's right.
No.
We're still wrapping up, too. We're gonna talk about
Okay, I wasn't sure.
second. Megan, and why don't you wrap up what you thought about Toon, and then I'll have you start off Ghost Racers. How's that?
Okay, so the artist did a great job. I love the art in this book. It's super endearing. I love the simple style. It's like a mix between anime and also like North American cartoons, and so I love that style. I really do. The writing in the first book kind of grates on me, only because I'm not sure if I'm supposed to empathize with this main character or not, because I kind of found him to be a jerk, but as I got into the second volume, I really liked it. So I would recommend definitely check this book out and stick through to the second volume to like reserve your judgments until then.
Cool. So the second book we read in our book club this month is Ghost Racers. Wee, 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 wee. Just kidding. Yeah, so on our Quintessential Comics book club, it's not just about me and what I want to read. We have polls up in our Facebook events for each month. And last month, Megan recommended that we read Ghost Racers up here. Woo woo. So we did, because I'm super cool like that in accepting other people's ideas.
This seems like a really roundabout way of saying that Megan harassed me until we talked about Ghost Racers, which is literally what happened. But also recommend books for Alice, because she's a hardworking girl and she wants to talk to you about comics.
Yeah. All right, so Megan, why don't you start us off?
Okay, kids, so I'm ready to go. I just had a nice coffee. My Wi-Fi is great, so let me tell you about Ghost Racers. Before we get into that, let me tell you about Ghost Rider, if you don't know what that is. Ghost Rider is not just one guy. Ghost Rider, yeah, I see you, Allison. I see you shaking with laughter.
I'm so excited.
It's so excited. Okay, so Ghost Rider is not this one guy. It's like this mantle. It's a legacy character, and so there's a bunch of actual Ghost Riders. It started in the 70s with Johnny Blaze, who was the child of like carnies, and his adoptive parents were motorcycle stuntsmen, and his dad he got cancer, and it was super bad news bears. And Johnny Blaze was so broken up about it. He's like, oh, I want to save my dad from cancer. And like, I think Allison will especially be familiar with this, but you guys know how like super old comics, like pre-80s, the storytelling was really compact, where like instead of like page flow, you had these panels where it's like a different scene each panel, and then a bunch of word boxes explaining what's happening. And so you have to imagine the 70s comic Ghost Rider, where Johnny Blaze is like, oh no, my dad has cancer and I want to save him. I'll sell my soul to the devil. And you're like, and as a reader, you're just like, Johnny Blaze, wait, hold on. And then the next panel, without missing a beat, his shirt is off. There's a pentagram painted on his chest in red, and he's surrounded by candles, and he's like, I'm selling my soul to the devil now. And the devil shows up. He's like, okay, how can I help you? And Johnny's like, save my dad from cancer. He's like, okay, I'll save your dad from cancer. Deal. And then the next day, so his dad doesn't know he's been saved from cancer, and he's like, well, I'm going to die, so I'm going to do this super 22-card jump with my motorcycle, and then he dies from that jump. And Johnny Blaze is like, but the devil, you said that you'd save my dad. It's like, no, sweetie, you said save him from cancer. I can't stop your dad from doing stupid stuff. And he's like, oh, the devil is the worst. And then he becomes Ghost Rider. And so that's the story of Johnny Blaze. So that happens in the 70s. And then it doesn't come back again until the 90s, where you have Danny Ketch. And Danny Ketch is out late one night with his sister in this super bad end of town with some friends, and then they get caught up in this gang turf war, which was between what was it, ninjas and vampires. So yeah, as it happens in New York in Marvel, and so his sister gets super fucked up. And he's like, oh no, my sister! And it's like, oh, what's this sweet motorcycle? And then he becomes Ghost Rider. So those are the two I've read, and so I went on Wikipedia and I looked up the other two. There's Alejandra, who her parents were human traffickers, and she got sold to this guy named Adam, and she actually got trained to inherit the mantle of Ghost Rider, and so she's
Ooh.
super badass. And then the last one is Carter Slade, who I looked up is not an actual Ghost Rider. Like, he was up in the 50s where he was like known as the Phantom Rider, or he was originally known as a Ghost Rider, but Marvel changed the name because they wanted it for the new, cooler character. And so he's been a Phantom Rider, he's been the Night Rider, but he wasn't an actual Ghost Rider, like with the spirit of vengeance. He was a guy on a horse pretending to be a ghost.
Just gonna interrupt you for a second. We got some comments in our chat. Lucian's Leia Fox is wondering if you're just telling us about the first movie is like the comics then.
I haven't seen that garbage, so no.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, so Carter Slade, he's not an actual Ghost Rider, like, from continuity. But Ghost Racers was like, no, you get to be a Ghost Rider too. And he's like, oh, thanks. He's like, but you have to be a zombie centaur. He's like, excuse me? He's like, yeah, you're a zombie centaur now. And then, so Ghost Race, and then we have, sorry, let me get back, Ghost Rider. All new Ghost Rider.
Can I?
Yeah, please,
So,
go.
because we read Ghost Racers, and it's just sort of, I guess, a spin-off of the current or newer Ghost Rider. I read all 12 issues. It was canceled, unfortunately, but it's all done by Felipe Smith.
Well, he was the writer. And then the last 2 issues, he did the art and writing duties.
Oh, okay, cool. And it centers around this kid, Roberto Reyes. We just call him Robbie Reyes, and he's like typical underclass, ethnic teenager whose parents abandoned them or died. It's later revealed that they died, right?
Yes.
And his little brother has like a developmental disability, so he doesn't have like full mobility, and he needs lots of like medication and attention and like physio and therapies and stuff. But like Robbie's so sweet, and he's like, I'll work extra he works as a mechanic, so he's like, I'll work extra shifts at the shop, and he still goes to school. And then every spare minute he spends with his little brother, and it's like so sweet, and it just warms your heart. And then so basically, afterwards he gets killed because he needs to become the Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider.
Pretty much. So he gets killed, but this spirit like comes to his body and rises him from the dead. In this one, it doesn't actually say whether like he didn't like physically talk to the devil, or he didn't do anything where he was like, oh, I'm going to sell my soul. This sort of spirit invades his body and gets him back up and does this whole Ghost Rider stuff. And he's like, I'm not going to be a vigilante. I'm not going to use my powers for evil. I'm just going to use my powers to win street races so I can have more money for my brother. And that way I don't have to work as much at the shop, and I can spend more time with my brother. And I'm like, and then, of course, like, you know, a female or a ethnic character in a major, you know, Marvel or DC canon, he does not get renewed after 12 issues because...
Wolverine isn't in this book.
Yeah. I don't know if it was like, so when the title started, Trad Moore was on art duties, and like Trad Moore has seen, he's seen me on 2 social media call him my art crush. Like, it's beautiful, beautiful line work. But then after the 5th issue, he leaves, and I'll never forgive him for that. Yeah. And another artist takes over for him. Maybe I shouldn't name names, but like Trad Moore in general is a hard act to follow on art duties, and this guy unfortunately is just not nearly as refined. And I don't know why artists are chosen for books or why not, but I do have a feeling that Marvel is probably hard up for artists that are comfortable drawing cars. And this guy draws a mean car and a mean motorcycle, but his people just, like, it's not measuring up. And so I have a feeling that might be why the book kind of, like, fell in sales.
The other thing is, like, with Secret Wars, they're collapsing all of these, like, alternate pocket universes is how they're describing it now.
But now I think it's going to be like, we're bringing, like, the Spider-Gwen universe is going to be 616, and Ultimates, and, like, you know, 2099, or whatever the hell else we have. We're going to put them all into one universe.
Yeah.
I literally could not care less about, like, the big publisher events.
No, I know. But that's what's happening.
No, I know. I thank you for explaining it to me.
Yeah, I feel really similar to Megan with that raspberry right there. But yeah, so this is where we get Ghost Racers. It's on what's called a battle world. Boom, battle world. And so basically, the comic itself is they get all the Ghost Riders together and then they do races together. And it looks super crazy, and the race sequence in this book, like, makes it for me. Like, oh, guys.
Yeah, the art duties is Gideon, if I'm pronouncing that right. And I really like that this style, like this simplistic kind of, this simple rendered style is becoming more popular at Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
I think it started with, like, David Aja on Hawkeye. Because I'm with you guys, like, this art style, I love it. I love it. The race, again, it's super intense, and the way they do everything is top notch.
Yeah, so this is this sort of Ghost Senator, Ghost Racer thing that you explained.
I love the page at the very end, too, where he talks about the design of Slade, and he's like, yeah, it's Centaur, but then also he's going to have these big guns, and I thought it would be cool to give him a face mask and stuff, and I was like, yay!
No joke, when I first saw the, like, promo image of this cover, and I saw Carter Slade, the Centaur, I was like, is this a mistake? Like, did the artist just forget to draw the rest of the horse? Because no way this is just a Ghost Rider Centaur. No way they would do that. But then Felipe Smith, who, like, God bless him, he has made himself very accessible on social media. Like, I was like, is this real? And he's like, yeah, that's totally real. That is a Centaur Ghost Rider. I was like, this book is the best! And I haven't even read it. I love it. I love it. I don't know if I would actually recommend this book to someone who isn't familiar with Ghost Rider, because I feel like you would only be interested in this book if you're already a fan of Ghost Rider. You know, I've shoved Ghost Rider onto both of you.
Well, I don't have that much familiarity with the character, though. Like, predominantly, what I've read was just, like, random stuff from the 70s. I've read a bit of Johnny Blaze.
Right.
Just because I really like Marvel horror in the 70s. Mm-hmm. But I don't think I've read all that much, like, actual Ghost Rider before. And so I would actually say that it sets up its world pretty easily. Like, if you haven't read the most recent Ghost Rider run, I think you might be a bit confused. But you don't need to know that much. Yeah, but even then, like, it for the rest of them, like, they don't have character really. You don't really need to know anything about them. So I'd say it's actually pretty accessible as far as mainstream comics go to set this world up for a new reader, so you can start to figure out what's going on. Because it's just like a really kinetic race sequence. So I mean, if you just want to read something that's like really fast paced and really fun. I think, I would recommend it to anyone, even if you hadn't necessarily read a bunch of Ghost Rider before.
Okay, that makes me happy. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I also wasn't sure because in preparation for this and because Megan had so strongly recommended it, I went back and I read those 12 issues from the recent Ghost Rider, and I really enjoyed it. And especially this opening scene where they're starting the race, and they got, everybody's like cheering on, Reyes! And I'm like, that's me and Megan in the stands right there. I'm like, ah!
I would literally read this book for this alone. Let's see. This dog? Go catch him. Like, that alone will just sell me on this book. So like I said, I was on Wikipedia kind of researching the other Ghost Riders in preparation, and it throws in this like one offline how Danny Ketch and Johnny Blaze are fighting each other like bad siblings. And on Wikipedia, I had read that it's like, oh yeah, Johnny Blaze, his mother and father, they left him at a young age with his siblings, Barbara and Danny, and Johnny Blaze just never remembered. He never he totally forgot, and it's like that smells of a retcon. And I was like, oh, okay, they're siblings now, I guess.
Nice.
But yeah, so there's these little in-jokes in here, like them being siblings that just like someone might not get unless they were familiar with that.
So I had no idea, and I thought it was funny. I assumed it was just a joke because they were the two like old original ones.
Right.
I confess that this is a gap in my Marvel reading. I don't know too much about Ghost Rider. I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah, me too. I also missed that joke, but like I found it funny just because it was funny in context. But it's nice when those things have layers, and you're like, I know, because they have one issue, and then they,
I get this reference. No, and so like the big reason I wanted this book on this show is because I feel like the all-new Ghost Rider with Robbie Reyes, written by Felipe Smith, and the art done by 3 different people, just like did not get enough attention, and that's why it got canned. And so that's why I really want to pimp Ghost Races. Like, I really want this book to succeed and Felipe Smith to get more work at Marvel, especially writing Ghost Rider stories.
Do we know how many issues it's going to have, this one?
It's a miniseries, right?
Yeah, well, everything that's debuting as part of Battle World is a miniseries because it's all going to end when the whole Secret Wars thing ends. I just don't know how many. Does anyone know how many issues it is?
I have no idea.
I don't know either. I think it's
some
either
issues.
4 or 6.
Does someone in the chat know?
Does somebody in the chat?
Does someone in the chat have access to Google, maybe?
Yeah.
So the way that Johnny Blaze became Ghost Rider is the same way in the movie. The movies suck. Thank you, Lucian. We all have opinions on who the best comic book artist is, and we're not going to argue about that today. But yeah, I would also agree. It looks like the Ghost of Death from East of West. East of West is a pretty good series. If you guys haven't read it yet, it's pretty good. No. Yeah, but like, I don't know. Overall, I thought this was interesting. It got me interested in some of the other Ghost Rider characters because Alessandro, like, I was like, I haven't heard of this one. Like, because some of the other ones I've heard of, and they had this crossover with Johnny Blaze in the all-new Ghost Rider. But yeah, I agree with Megan. This didn't get enough attention during when the run was going on. I thought the art was, like, truly exceptional, especially in those first couple issues. But it also is, like, the colors and the style isn't that mainstream Marvel stuff, so some people aren't like super interested, and those people need to open up their minds. I thought it was really good, and it fits the content of the comics. I feel like the art style and the art has to fit what's going on in these characters and has to speak to that. And I felt like especially the color work in the Ghost Rider issues were really well done, and then in this issue it was very much toned down, but I liked it. I still really agreed with it. Yeah. Allison, you were gonna say something?
Well, first question on the colors. Yeah, I thought the color work, and there's a lot of really good like texture work in this one. It's Tamra. I don't want to say her name wrong. Bonvillain maybe.
Yeah,
or
Bonvillain.
But yeah, some really fantastic, like, most of it's very flat, but then you get these odd moments of, like, really nice texturing and shadowing and stuff that I thought was really good. But who did the coloring for Ghost Rider?
Val
Staples. Have a bunch of copies.
Oh,
Staples. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, do we have comments?
We have more comments, guys.
Okay, let's do it.
Really active audience today.
Is it more Lucian?
But yeah, it's going to be 4 issues.
Okay. Oh, dang, really? That's it?
Aww.
I want more.
Oh, thanks, Keith.
Do you guys know what this one's referring to? What's the book series that the Ghost Riders book was covering up? Oh, you're talking about on my bookshelf? Okay, hold on. On my bookshelf here, I have my Sin Cities. The first one's really small because I got it in a DVD, and then I have Bone.
I was just gonna think, does anyone else think it's kind of weird how big a villain Arcade has become in the last few years? Like, he's the villain of this book. He was in Avengers Undercover, and before that he was in Avengers Arena after, like, that appearing in Avengers Academy, and it's just like, why?
Was he also in Marvel Knight Spider-Man, the one that Marco Rudy did? I think that was also Arcade.
Probably. I haven't read that personally.
Oh my
but
god,
it's possible.
so good. You guys have to read this book. Marco Rudy's art is like phenomenal. And it's one of those things that like only really works in issues because those 2-page spreads are so good. Alright, guys, sorry I geek out all the time.
But yeah, it's like, why do we think this villain who was like before now this really, he's sort of hammy, like he's a weirdly hammy villain, and it's, you know, had only ever been in these like one-off little weirdo issues, but then so now he's like, that's like 3 in a row where he's been like a major villain player, despite being a guy who sets up these like ridiculous, elaborate traps for people. So, you know, when he's kind of one note that way, why do we think that he's all of a sudden like popular and a hot item?
Marvel and DC, they like to use people, like characters that are already canonized and that are already recognizable and that people can go like, oh yeah, I remember that guy from that one issue, or like, oh, he had a great run in this. So the ones that they've been using, they want to use more of. The ones that aren't doing, like they haven't used in years, or the ones that are newer, they don't want to use because then they're not recognizable. So I feel like Arcade got bumped up in villain status because he was there. And because, you know, like all the other villains were in other issues, those
no one was playing with him. He was the only toy left in the box.
It's just, I don't know, it's just a weird thing to me that he's suddenly everywhere, and I'm like, this guy? But it works. Like, I can't think of a different villain that would be more effective in this role. But, like, I guess you could have anyone at this point, because we haven't seen that much of him, but, it was one of those things where, like, I didn't know who the villain was going to be, but it was, like, a red-haired guy, and I was like, it's got to be Arcade. Like, that makes sense.
They could pull that twist that some like of the bigger names like to do, where it's good. It looks like it's Arcade, but then he pulls off the mask and it's like Voltron or something.
Or he's actually just been like on villain assignment from like Doctor Doom, and Doctor Doom's like pulling all the strings or something.
Okay, yeah, that could be.
You guys know more about Secret Wars than I do, where on Battle Worlds there are statues of Doctor Doom, because I actually have no idea why they're on Battle World, other than wouldn't it be cool if they raced against each other to the death?
Well, in the beginning of this Ghost Racers issue, it talks about how Doctor Doom is the ruler of Battleworld, and how when all these like pocket universes sort of like appeared on this world, Doctor Doom was the one that's like pulling it all together, and he's the one that's in charge, and he's like the god overmaster. Like that's why people like swear and they're like, God Doom, because like he's sort of like their deity, their figurehead.
Yeah, it's like a massive AU right now, like a massive universe at the moment.
It's basically a fanfic. This is what I'm reading.
Yeah, well, and I'm actually kind of like, the Secret Wars itself, I hear the book's actually pretty good, like the main Secret Wars book. I'm not reading it. So I think this is interesting because it gives them the opportunity to actually make changes, and that at the end of this, like, things will actually look different than it did before.
But
and I think that... No, well, that's the thing. Like, we won't know, but like it gives them the opportunity to make things different. So we'll see how. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But I'm like not gonna get pessimistic just yet, because it sounds like the intention here is to actually change things. And maybe it won't, and maybe it'll be like 3 characters. But who knows? Like it could end up being useful.
I'm just gonna bring up some comments while we continue talking. Yeah. I don't know. I thought this book was good, but it's also tough because some of us don't care, as Allison says, and also some of us because of the Canadian exchange rate, the Canadian dollar is really low right now, and it cost me 25% more for each issue, and it's like getting to that point where it's like I can't afford to get things in issues. And it's like, if that's the case, I will save like $7 if I just buy the trade, and then I have like a nice bookshelf edition. And it's just sort of annoying because we want to buy issues to support the series, but the issues are expensive, and then it's like, oh, it's a cycle, man. It's just a cycle.
Well,
you know what I'm saying though, right?
Absolutely, no. I used to I am still of that mindset where it's like I am not able to afford like emptying my pull list and buying single issues all the time. I've kind of fallen into following stuff issue by issue just by having a pull list, and like I started with actually Ghost Rider, following it issue by issue to support the book, like Ghost Rider and Miss Marvel, and it's kind of just like it just kind of kept going and just empty out my pull box when I can afford it. But it's like it's an unfortunate system that we get wrapped up in. We're like, yeah, I can't afford these books all the time, but that's kind of the only best way to support a certain book, especially a book that you're not sure is gonna do well or not.
Yeah,
I use Comixology.
Nice.
And the Dark Horse digital store, because they're not on Comixology. It's a terrible platform, to be honest. Like, the readability is not the best. But what they do, a lot of the series, like not Marvel, but Image and a couple of the other ones will make, you can download like PDFs or CBRs, whatever you can read. Yeah, I don't know. It's actually I want to have a pull list in a place where I can actually go, and I want the experience of the store, but just because of, you work all day and you go home, it's just, when do you find time? So it's a lot easier, I find, if I have them on the computer, and then also I can read them on my lunch break at work.
Yeah, my problem is I have this beautiful Kindle Fire HD, and it's a color tablet e-reader, and I bought it specifically so I could read comics on it, but Amazon doesn't have a lot of support for apps, so they don't even have the Marvel Digital Comics app, which is crazy, and it's like I get free digital copies with every issue I buy, like this one's got like a free digital in it right there, and I can't get it on my e-reader because Amazon, it's just like, ugh. And then the other thing is that each publisher, Dark Horse, Marvel, DC, Image, they all have their own digital comic subscription service. Some of them have their own apps. So there's not a universal thing, and that's like a problem.
Well, most of them are on Comixology. I think Dark Horse is the only one that I regularly have to go somewhere else to get. Everyone else is on, I can get everything else on Comixology.
To be fair, Comixology will have like sales every once in a while where it's like, oh, get all of like this series for $1.99.
But hey, I don't think Diana's coming back, and this is a particularly long book club episode, so we should probably wrap up. Allison, why don't you tell us about your work?
So this is my Twitter handle here. You can follow me if you want more of my thoughts about comics and other nerd stuff. I write for a few different websites. Folks from Toronto might know Geek Prawn. I also write for Paper Droids, which is also kind of based in Toronto, and one called Pop Culture-y that's based in Australia. And I mostly write about comics, but sometimes I write about other stuff too. And I'm also the editor of Toronto-based superhero comic, The Pitiful Human Lizard by Jason Liu. That's me.
Cool.
Megan.
Hold
Megan,
on.
All right.
We just got some comments. Yeah, Keith says it's an opportunity for fanfics. Have you guys not seen comics? IDW published a comic that was a crossover between Ghostbusters and TMNT. Comics is where all fan fictions are reality. Just saying. Yeah, we're all talking about the cost. Sucks. And then, yeah.
Walking Dead, Saga, Lazarus, all good choices.
Megan, tell us about yourself.
I am Megan. I am a freelance comic artist, and I'm also a webcomic creator. I did a series called Takeoff, and I'm working on a new series called Godslave, which you can find at godslavecomic.com. It's about a girl thrown into the drama and danger of Egyptian mythology in the modern day. So that's at godslavecomic.com. You can also find me on Twitter at mega_Carter, and also on Tumblr at gamma-girl.
Diana had to leave early, but Diana is Words of Diana on Twitter. She does the Text from Superheroes website. And
she also writes for a number of sites. She does freelance writing. One of the biggest is Cracked.com. She's very funny. You should look her up. Words of Diana, yeah.
Do we know her full name, any of us?
Diana McCullum.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, shout outs to her. She had a previous engagement, so she couldn't stay the whole time. And as always, I'm Alice Quinn. You can find me as the Alice Quinn on Tumblr, on Twitter, on Facebook, and this is my YouTube channel, Quintessential Comics, or just QCX Show. Yeah, so this is our book club. We do it once a month. We do one graphic novel and one new issue. If you go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/QCXshow, we have our upcoming book club. Right now, there isn't book club picks because I want people to recommend what they're interested in reading. So there's a poll on that page right now. And then you guys could join in our next book club. I'm always looking for people to join us in the comments and also in the video. And if you just contact me before, we'll just do a test video, and then we can set it up and have tons of fun. Because this one's been tons of fun. I've had so much fun with you guys. Thank you so much.
We're great.
Thank you for having us.